Okay, hi guys and welcome to the show. Today I'm finally going to be reviewing the Trident, the new version of the Trident with the ceramic bezel. This has been very graciously sent in by Salvador C, who is a long-time loyal viewer, supporter and patron of the channel. So thank you very much to Salvador, it's an absolute honor. And of course this is the 38mm version, which is absolutely gorgeous. I love its small compact size. It's not as small as, let's say, a mid-size at 36. It's a smidgen bigger, wears a little bit like my Speedmaster, the Speedmaster Reduced. It's a really great option. So let's switch perspectives now and have a closer look at the new Trident C60. Today we're reviewing the Christopher Ward Trident C60 Pro, and this is the 38mm version. It does come in two sizes, which is something I really do like about Christopher Ward. This is a fully automatic Swiss-made diving watch. We'll go into the specifications of the movement in just a moment. We'll get the basic specs of the dimensions and all the rest of it out the way first. So this is the black dial and ceramic bezel version. This is the predecessor to the first generation. There are a hell of a lot of upgrades. The movement has stayed the same. It's pretty much standard in this kind of price range with these mid-range pieces. But pretty much everything else has been really nicely upgraded. As I said, this is the 38mm size, so it's a little bit bigger than a, let's say, a 36 mid-size, but really wears nicely. We have this all stainless steel case, brushed sides, and then high polish on the top. Of course, we've got the ceramic bezel, which is a really nice addition, which is of course unidirectional. The bezel has a very nice action to it. There's very little play on it. It's 120 click. It is a little bit tinny. It reminds me a bit like the Aquis, but it's very solid and certainly does the job. The ceramic is very nicely done, similar to the Submariner, where we got actual engraved numerals. We have sapphire glass, of course, which is about 3.4mm thick, anti-reflective, fantastic guilloche wave dial. I really like it, some people don't, but I think it's a nice touch. The water resistance of this piece is 600 meters, which is double on the first generation, which was 300 meters. It's more than you'd ever need, and realistically you probably wouldn't go diving to that depth. One thing to note is that it does come on a leather strap, and it's quite a nice leather strap, genuine leather of course, and it's all stamped Christopher Ward London, very nicely done, with this fantastic clasp which has been machined very nicely, of course with company logo. But however, for me, a dive watch, really you put it on a NATO, you put it on rubber. There is a bracelet version as well, so slightly unusual that it comes on a leather strap, but I think that's mainly because they've thought about it in quite a contemporary way. Also, the styling of it, it's quite dressy for a dive watch, quite smart. There are little nuances in the design that make it much more of a less tool orientated and a little bit more kind of dressy, a little bit more smarter than your average dive watch. So it kind of works. Bit unusual. If you did go diving with it, you'd want to take the leather strap off. Has these curved spring bars, which is a nice touch that really kind of hug the shape of the case. I really like that. The attention to detail here is really quite impressive. They've certainly thought about everything, every little detail in this watch. On top of that, the changes made between this and the older version have really improved the Trident remarkably. I actually reviewed the previous version. I'll include a link down below in the description, check it out. I had the blue 38mm version of the first generation of the Trident, and it was a cracking little watch. It didn't last long in my collection. I lusted after other things, but it was a really solid start for this relative new company. I should discuss Christopher Ward a little bit. They were founded not too long ago, I think in the mid-noughties, from London of course, and Christopher Ward is a watchmaker, and he wanted to offer something that was affordable. He wanted to bring a kind of luxury quality but to a more affordable price range by cutting out the middleman, which is, you know, brick and mortar stores and all the rest of it, and offering watches of a luxury quality at a more reasonable, accessible price. So we'll get the dimensions out of the way. Now of course I must say that, sorry, it's a bit dusty that, I have put sellotape on the end of this, so Salvador, if you're watching, do not worry, your watch will be safe. So the diameter is 38mm. We got a thickness of 12, just under 13, 12.8. From lug to lug, we're looking at 44, which is really nice size. Now the lug width, this is a really cool thing, 20, which is fantastic because it kind of annoys me sometimes about mid-sized pieces. They often come with 18mm lug widths, which means if you haven't already got 18mm NATO straps, you have to buy a whole new lot in. So that can get a little bit annoying, but because they've kept the 20mm lug width here, it's already compatible with all the rest of my NATO straps, other rubber straps, all the rest of it. So that's really handy, nice little detail, and it doesn't look overwhelmingly large for the watch case. I think it works very well. I think that's a really clever move on their part to keep it 20mm lug width. So we'll have a look at the case. I'm just going to pop it off the NATO so we can see the back. It has a lovely screw down case back. So the three-pronged fork on the back obviously is referencing to nautical history, to Neptune's fork there, which is a really cool little nice touch, and it's done very, very well. And we've got the guilloche pattern repeated on the back as we see on the dial. If we see on the second hand the counterbalance there, we see Neptune's fork again. So I really like that consistent little bit of design. They've definitely thought about it. It just makes it a little bit more unique. Finishing on this is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's really, really well done. I mean, it reminds me of some of the metal work I've seen on the Amiga, the case backs of Amigas. So very well done indeed. If we just pop it back on. And while we're still on the subject, of course we have a screw down crown at the 3 o'clock position, and I just want to show you here that on the crown they've done a fantastic job of the CW initials there, but it's a lovely matted finish, and then the lettering in a high polish, kind of in keeping with the brushed sides. It's very nicely done. The quality of the finishing is impeccable. I would say it's comparable easily to other watches in this price range. Definitely better than a Steinhardt. Not as good as some of the higher range Squire, but definitely better than the 1545 and comparable to the 1521. Definitely punching way above its weight. So let's have a closer look at the dial. They've updated the dial quite a bit. We have these stick markers now, which kind of remind me of the Aquas a little bit, with very thin lume, but the lume is pretty good. They've upgraded the lume. In fact, it's a Superluminova SLN-T-C1, so apparently it's better. In fact, let's switch to a lume shot right now. Okay, here we are guys, having a look at the lume shot, and as you can see it's fairly responsive. The thin indices on the dial are a little lacking, but considering their size they don't do a bad job. Hands are definitely stronger and more responsive, but of course they're a lot thicker. The dot on the bezel at the 12 o'clock is very responsive indeed, and the fact that the onion hour hand and the minute hand are very different shapes makes them easy to distinguish. So the lume is not too bad. If you're like me and lume is important to you, especially I like to check the time during the night, I mean it does the job, but it's, you know, there's a lot better lume out there, considering, you know, a lume in the Seika for $200 is definitely a lot better, but it's not too bad. Anyway, let's take it back to the studio. Okay, and welcome back guys. So as you saw, that was the lume shot. We got a little applied lume at the pip on the bezel, the 12 o'clock. We've got double applied markers at the 12 o'clock position. Beautiful framed date at the 3 o'clock. Very nicely done indeed. I really like that frame. It's quite deep and they've done a cracking job. We've got a little seconds track running around the outside, Swiss made sign at the bottom. Trident Pro, and you'll see the depth rating there in orange, which it's very, very subtle, but I like that little splash of color. In fact, that's the only color we really get on this particular version. Of course, there are different dials, different bezel colors as well, but this is the standard black, which I must say is very smart indeed. If we look at the hands, we have the same onion hand and very quite broad minute hand there. They're semi-skeletonized, so before we get to the lume section, it is actually kind of semi-skeletonized, which is a nice touch. I really love the way the second hand goes all the way to the outside of that dial. really nice and long, so you get a very accurate reading. Obviously the onion hand there being nice and broad is going to have nice lume on it, as we just saw earlier. So the dial is definitely very readable, very neat. I do like that guilloche pattern they have on there. It's it plays with the light. So it certainly makes it more interesting. So let's discuss the movement a little bit. Inside we have the SW200, which is a Celita, and the Celita is a clone of the ETA or ETA 2824-2. Personally, I can speak from experience. These are movements that I know very, very well. They perform impeccably. We're talking about, plus minus 20 seconds at the max. In my experience, the Celita has always been a little bit more accurate than the ETA original it's based on. It can differ. These automatic things can differ, but from speaking from experience, the Celita tends to be a little bit more accurate. We've got a 38-hour power reserve there, and it operates at 28,800 beats per hour. There is a shock absorbent system in the movement, so that's pretty cool as well. It's a nice addition to a diver, especially because at the end of the day, despite its presentation on strap, it is, well, it's supposed to be a tool watch. It is essentially a sports watch as well. So it's a solid, reliable workhorse movement, and that's the kind of thing you want in a watch like this. The overall weight, we're talking 73 grams, so quite light. Let's have a quick wrist shot now. Here we are with the wrist shot, and as you can see, for my skinny little wrist, it works perfectly. And something I really do like about Christopher Ward is that you have got the option. Their mid-size is not tiny, it's not as tiny as a 36 or 34, which, if we look at my Tudor day date here, this is 35. It's just perfect. It wears very nicely indeed because it's so small. It sits on the wrist. The lugs aren't that curved, so for the smaller wrist, it wears actually even a little bit bigger, but you don't really feel it. It's absolutely perfect. I really like it, and as you guys know, smaller watches are definitely coming back. It's so much more sophisticated looking, much more elegant, and I just love the fact that they offer both sizes. So if you have got the larger wrist, you can go for the 42mm, and it will look great on you, So it's all a matter of scale, keeping it relative to you. Let's just summarize the watch. It's impeccably made for the money. This retails at about $800, around the $800 mark, but you can get them much, much cheaper. I've seen them go for as little as half that price in special sales on the Christopher Ward's website, so just keep checking them out. You'll see them on the used market occasionally as well. Now obviously Christopher Ward are a new company, so they're not going to have the best resale value in the world, but for what you're getting a very solid watch, definitely punching way above its weight considering its price. I love all the upgrades. The ceramic is done very, very nicely. Stylistically, it's what I would describe as a hybrid or super homage, because what we have here is elements from all different kinds of watches. The ceramic bezel certainly is very similar to the one on my Submariner. The dial itself, the wave pattern is similar to an Omega Seamaster from the 90s. The new applied markers there I neglected to mention, are beautifully done, by the way, are very similar to the Aquis. It's borrowing bits from all kinds of very successful watches and mix them all together in its own design. There are obviously aspects of this that are completely unique, like the counterbalance there. I think the crown is something I haven't seen before, the brushed and the kind of cog crown, and I like that. The shape is not too similar to anything else I've seen before, so in a way it's very individualistic, but it's quite conservative. The negatives, it would be nice to see something other than an SW200, but I understand, they've got to keep the costs relative, otherwise it would run into the thousands. So not a massive negative, it's just a little bit boring. And I think that is another slight negative, is that they've really played it safe with the design of this watch. It's not like a Squire 1521 that's very individual and unlike anything out there, that's completely original. But at the same time, it's not a homage, it's in a kind of in the middle there. It doesn't push any boundaries. It doesn't offer anything that's dramatically new at the same time. But if you're looking for something that is tasteful, that is well made, that is reliable, from a company, and I must say all my dealings with them, their customer support has been excellent. They really do stick by their products, and it's a company that I think is going to go somewhere in places. You can see why this is their best-selling watch, definitely. My favorite feature has to be on the dial where it says Christopher Ward. I really like the fact it says London underneath it. It's a little bit of personal pride, I think, and it's nice to see new companies coming up and making products that are affordable, that offer really good quality for the money. And seeing watches of this quality and so tastefully done really is something to be respected, and I really like Christopher Ward for that. Okay guys, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Let's switch perspectives now. Okay, welcome back guys. Now I find that this price range, you really can't complain. It's an outstanding watch for the money. Really hit a home run with this. My only slight negatives is maybe plays a little bit too safe. I would have liked to have seen some more kind of, a little bit more daring, a bit more different in the design. It's very conservative, but at the same time, playing it safe like this makes for a more timeless classic design. I'm not a massive fan of the leather strap it came on. I just find divers on the leather strap a little bit strange. You guys know I like my my native straps, and this on a, imagine this on a bright, you know, red or orange rubber strap would just really make it come alive. But having said that, it has quite a smart aesthetic. It has quite a dressy aesthetic, and I'm not quite sure what it is. I think it's just because it's such a refined, well-crafted piece for the money. Now, would I actually buy one myself? I probably would. The only thing is at the moment, you know, I've got so many mid-range divers, I'm quite content. But at the same time, I can't really see that many watches out there that offer as much for the money as the little Christopher Ward here. So I'm going to leave it there. Please don't forget to add your questions, opinions, queries, thoughts, all the rest of it down in the comments below. I'd really like to hear, especially from owners of the Trident. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are your favorite aspects of the watch? What do you dislike about the watch? Please share them down in the comments. I always like to hear feedback, especially from owners of the pieces. Stay tuned for a duel. I think it's definitely gonna have to compare it to some of my other pieces. Once again, thank you very, very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Okay guys, ciao.